Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The spaceport was crowded. Ships came and went. People shouted, laughed, and moved fast. But in the corner, standing still, was an alien woman named Valea. Her arms were thin, her clothes old and torn. A small baby, wrapped in cloth, rested against her chest. The baby made no sound, only tiny movements, as if too tired to cry. Valea stared at the big glowing job board in the middle of the plaza. It showed names of companies and the workers they needed: cleaners, mechanics, assistants, translators. She read each one carefully, hope burning in her chest. She stepped forward and touched a button. A robotic voice said, "Position closed. Alien applicants not accepted." She tried another. "Experience required, no alien ID found." Another. "Rejected. Human citizens only." Her hands started to shake. People around her gave her dirty looks. One man even laughed. "She thinks someone will hire her? Look at her." A group of teenage boys pointed at her baby and whispered cruel jokes. Valea lowered her head and stepped back, her heart heavy. Her planet, Kirun, had fallen during the war. Her husband had died fighting. With no family left, she ran to this human colony, hoping for a fresh start. But all she found was cold stares and closed doors. She sat on a bench near the job board. Her baby let out a soft whimper. She gently rocked him, whispering, "Shh, little one. Mama will find work, I promise." For hours, she watched others get picked. One by one, humans walked up, pressed buttons, and got hired. Some didn't even look at her. Some sneered. Just when she was about to give up, a small voice spoke from behind her. "You looking for work?" Valea turned around quickly. A man stood there wearing dusty overalls and holding a broken mechanical part. He had grease on his hands and kind eyes. Yes," she said carefully. "Please, anything." The man looked at her for a moment, then at the baby, then back at her. "Name's Darren," he said. "I run a small repair shop down the hill. Nothing fancy. You know anything about coolant? Valves?" Valea blinked. That was an old word, but she remembered. "Yes, they control the heat in engine cores." Darren raised his eyebrows. "Well, most folks don't even know that. I've got a unit that keeps overheating. Think you can look at it?" Valea slowly stood up, still unsure. "You want me to fix it?" "I want to see if you can," Darren replied, smiling slightly. "You try, and I'll decide if I can offer you something." She didn't hesitate. "Yes, please. Thank you." As they started walking together, people nearby whispered again. One woman scoffed. "That human's crazy. Hiring her. Disgusting." Darren didn't react. Valea heard every word, but this time she didn't lower her head. She looked down at her baby, who was now awake, looking at the sky. For the first time in many days, hope didn't feel like a lie. Darren's repair shop stood at the edge of the colony, built from old cargo containers and broken ship pieces. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the sound of metal tools echoed through the air. It didn't look like much, but for Valea it felt like a second chance. As they entered, the smell of oil, sparks, and rust filled her nose. She had never worked in a place like this. Her hands gently held her baby, who looked around with wide, curious eyes. Darren pointed to a large engine core on the table. "This thing overheats every few hours. I've tried replacing the coolant tube 3 times. Nothing works. Take a look." Valea nodded. She gently laid her baby down on a clean patch of cloth in the corner, close to her sight. Then she stepped toward the engine, her fingers running along the surface with care. Soft, gentle, trained. She didn't just look at the parts. She listened to them, felt them. Within 5 minutes, she opened a hidden valve near the back. "It's leaking from the joint seal. Heat pressure is building up," she said calmly. "You need a stronger seal ring. Yours are too old." Darren blinked. "I had no idea there was a back valve." Valea smiled faintly. "It's used in older models. My husband taught me." Darren was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "You're hired. She stared at him. But I didn't fix it yet. You found the problem in 5 minutes. That's better than any mechanic I've had this week. Valea bowed her head deeply. Thank you. Thank you so much. But not everyone shared Darren's kindness. Later that day, as Valea cleaned the main floor and helped organize old parts, 2 workers stood outside whispering. Why is he letting that alien woman work here? One muttered. She'll bring trouble. The other scoffed. Probably trying to look like a hero. Just wait. She'll mess up something soon. Inside, Valea worked quietly. She didn't respond to the whispers. She didn't show pain. But her ears heard everything. She kept her focus. She worked twice as hard. For her baby. For this chance. When the sun set, Darren returned from a delivery run. He found the shop cleaner than ever, his parts sorted by type and size. The engine core was already halfway repaired with notes written in clear, simple script. You did this? He asked. Valea nodded, holding her child who had fallen asleep. You didn't have to do all that. I wanted to prove I'm useful, she said softly. Not just a burden. Darren looked at her, then at the baby in her arms. You're not a burden. You're a fighter. That night, Valea sat on a bench outside the shop, watching the stars. For the first time in many nights, she didn't feel invisible, she felt seen. And far above the colony in orbit, an unknown ship scanned the area, tracking her every move. It was raining acid mist the next morning. Tiny hissing drops fell from the pale green sky, burning shallow holes in metal roofs. Most workers, stayed inside. Only those with strong protective suits dared to go out. Inside the mechanic shop, the roof leaked in one corner, dripping next to the warm engine core. A weak power hum filled the air. The coolant machine Darren had been working on had broken again, this time worse. It buzzed like it might explode. Stay back, shouted one of the workers. It'll blow. Darren grabbed his toolkit and ran to the machine. But someone moved faster. Valea, with her child strapped close to her chest and her outer coat zipped tight, she stepped forward without hesitation. Her hands moved like lightning, disconnecting cables, releasing pressure, valves redirecting the core's heat flow. What is she doing? Someone gasped. The coolant system roared, and then stopped. The shop fell silent. Steam lifted into the air, but the machine was stable again. Everyone stared. Darren slowly approached her. How did you do that? She panted, sweat on her forehead. Same failure happened once on a cargo ship I was on. I remembered. Another worker stepped closer, muttering. She had the baby on her the whole time. She still fixed it? Valea didn't answer. She just checked on her baby, still asleep, warm and safe. But not everyone was impressed. A tall, thick-armed man named Morik, who had worked at the shop for years, crossed his arms and growled. She's showing off, trying to take our jobs. She just saved the system, Darren replied calmly. She's dangerous, Morik snapped. Aliens like her always bring problems. Watch. That night, long after the others had left, someone crept into the shop with a small metal device. A saboteur. The device was slipped inside the coolant unit, a timed overload chip designed to cause a silent meltdown during work hours. The next day, everything seemed normal. Valea arrived early as always, holding her child close and quietly beginning her duties. She didn't know someone had tried to make her look like a failure. Around mid-morning, the coolant system buzzed louder than usual. Lights flickered. The temperature rose. Not again, Darren muttered. Suddenly, a loud crack. Steam burst from the pipes. Sparks flew. And then, a scream. The baby, Valea's baby. In the chaos, her child had slipped from her carrier wrap, sliding behind a pipe near the boiling heat coil. Without thinking, Valea dove headfirst through the steam, burning her arms and hands as she reached for her baby. She clutched him tightly and rolled out, shielding him with her body. Everyone watched in shock as she lay coughing, trembling, but alive. Her child gave a soft cry, confused, but safe. Darren ran to them. Are you okay? She nodded weakly. He's safe, that's all that matters. Darren looked at the broken machine. He knew this wasn't just another failure. He opened the panel, and there it was, a hidden overload chip. Sabotage. He turned slowly. His eyes locked with Morix, who had gone pale. You did this, Darren said, voice low. You put a child's life in danger. I didn't think. Get out. You're done here. Morix tried to argue, but no one listened. The workers who had once whispered now stood with Valea. One brought her water. Another gave a clean cloth for her burns. In that moment, they didn't see her as an alien. They saw her as one of them. The night after the sabotage, the mechanic shop was quiet. Too quiet. Darren stayed behind, standing alone in the workshop. The lights flickered overhead. He stared at the coolant system, now offline, and the charred marks left by the steam blast. Valea's burned gloves still lay on the table. One glove was torn where she had covered her child. He picked it up and clenched it in his hand. She saved the entire shop, he whispered to himself, and someone tried to destroy her. Outside, the streets were empty. Most workers had gone home, but Valea stayed too. She sat on an old bench behind the shop holding her baby close. Her arms were bandaged. Her hands hurt, but her heart ached more. She thought about Morix's face when he was caught. She thought about all the times people said she didn't belong, that she was a threat, a burden. She looked down at her baby's eyes, still shining with trust. No one will hurt you again, she whispered. I promise. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A security vehicle stopped outside the workshop. 2 colony officers stepped out in black uniforms. They entered the shop without knocking. Mr. Darren, one said. We received a report. You've been employing an undocumented alien. Darren didn't flinch. Yes, and she's the best damn worker I have. Her presence is a violation of Alien Labor Law 419, the officer said coldly. You could face a heavy fine, even shutdown. Before Darren could speak, a new voice cut through the air. I'm the one you want. It was Valea. She stepped forward, carrying her baby. Her face was calm, but her voice was firm. Don't punish him. He saved my life. He gave me a chance when no one else would. If you need to take someone, take me. One of the officers raised an eyebrow. You speak. Well, I was once a diplomat's wife, she replied. I know your laws, but I also know justice. There was silence. Suddenly, a loud engine roared outside. A sleek ship landed in the road, military grade, polished and powerful. From the ramp stepped Commander Rivas, the colony's district leader. The officers snapped to attention. Stand down, the commander said sharply. He walked straight to Valea and looked her over. You're the one who saved the coolant system with a baby on your back? Yes, she said simply. He turned to Darren. And you're the mechanic who hired her, despite the rules? I don't regret it, Darren said. The commander gave a strange smile. Good. We need more people like you. The officers were stunned. But sir, she's not registered. She is now, Commander Rivas interrupted, handing Darren a data chip. Temporary work authorization and a request. Darren blinked. A request? Rivas pointed at Valea. She's got something rare, skill and courage. I want her to help with off-world diagnostics. Something big, something broken. And we can't fix it without people like her. Valea looked at her baby, then at Darren. I won't leave unless he agrees, she said quietly. He believed in me first. Darren nodded. Then we do it together. Commander Rivas smiled. Again. Then welcome to the team. As the ship took off in the sky, the people who once doubted her stood in silence. One alien mother, one human mechanic, one act of trust, and a future that was just beginning to change. 2 days after Commander Rivas gave Valea her temporary work authorization, the news spread across the colony. Some called her lucky, some called it favoritism. Others, mostly angry humans from outer districts, called it a mistake. But inside Darren's repair shop, things had changed. Workers greeted Valea with nods. One even offered her warm tea, another brought an old baby, cot to make her child more comfortable. Yet behind every kind smile, there were still whispers. She doesn't belong here. She's still an alien. She just got protected because of that freak incident. Darren ignored the voices. He trusted what he saw, a hard-working mother, smarter than most, with a heart bigger than her past. He gave her more tasks, real tasks, diagnostics, engine tuning, communication wiring. Every time, Valea proved herself. She was fast, careful, and knew things no one else did. But one morning the shop's door burst open. A tall woman in a dark green uniform entered with a group of silent men in black. Her badge read, Council Enforcement, Regional Authority. Darren, Holt, she said coldly. You've been summoned for civil review. Darren looked up from his bench. For what? For violating Section 8C of the Interstellar Employment Act. Your alien worker is not cleared for the type of work she's been performing. Valea stepped forward. I have clearance. Commander Rivas issued it. The woman raised a data pad. That clearance was temporary. It's under review, and while it's being reviewed, all work must stop. Darren clenched his jaw. So, what, you expect her to sit and wait while her child starves? Those are the rules, she said flatly. Darren stood up. Then the rules are broken. The air in the room tensed. Workers stopped what they were doing and looked on. I hired her, Darren said. I take full responsibility. If there's a fine, I'll pay it. If you want to shut me down, do it. Valea grabbed his arm. No, you need this shop. These people need you. I won't be the reason it falls. But Darren didn't move. You saved my workers. You saved my shop. You've earned your place here more than anyone. The officer sneered. You're a fool. Just then, a voice crackled. Through the radio on her shoulder. This is Rivas. Stand down. The woman's eyes widened. Sir, I repeat, stand down. I've reviewed her file. Full clearance is approved. She stays. The radio went silent. Valea looked at Darren, her eyes wet but steady. You didn't have to fight for me. Yes, I did, he said, because it was right. The officers left, humiliated. The workers stood a little taller that day. They saw what real strength looked like, not in fists or machines, but in choices. Later, in the quiet of the workshop, Valea stood beside Darren. Why do you keep risking so much for me? He looked at her child, peacefully sleeping nearby. Because I see him, and I see you. You both remind me why we fight to build something better. Valea smiled. Not wide, not loud, just a quiet, real smile. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like a visitor. She felt like she belonged. It began with a meal. One cold morning before the shop opened, Darren walked in to find something unexpected. The floor was swept, the tools cleaned and organized, and on the table sat a pot of steaming stew. The smell was strange. Sweet and spicy but warm. Valea stood nearby, quietly placing bowls down. Her baby lay wrapped in blankets near a warm vent, fast asleep. I made breakfast, she said, unsure. From my planet's recipe, we shared food with those we trusted. Darren looked around. No one else was there yet. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she said softly. To say thank you. He sat down and tried a spoonful. It was unlike anything he'd ever tasted, but good, comforting. One by one, the other workers arrived. Some looked surprised, others smiled. Most sat down. Even Juno, the oldest and grumpiest worker in the shop, muttered, I guess I'll try a little. That morning, for the first time, no one talked about Valea being alien. They talked about the food. They laughed. They shared stories. It wasn't a shop anymore, it felt like a home. Later, Darren gave Valea her own locker. Her name, Valea. Farisi was written on it in bold letters. You're not just a helper now, he said. You're part of this place. Valea touched the locker door like it was sacred. This is the first time I've seen my name written anywhere since I left my world. And then something happened that changed everything. A government vehicle arrived, but it wasn't the council this time. It was a private shuttle from an off-world tech firm. A woman in a silver suit stepped out, holding a data pad and speaking fast. "I'm here for Valea." Her diagnostics work on Darren's system caught our attention. We tracked her through Commander Rivas's clearance logs. "We'd like to offer her a contract." Valea blinked. "A contract?" "Yes. Full citizenship, housing, off-world travel, a career path. We've never seen such accurate system tuning." The offer was huge. A dream. A future. But Valea's eyes drifted to the corner where her baby was sleeping, and then to Darren, who stood quietly watching. She stepped aside with the woman and said softly, "May I ask a question?" "Of course," the woman said. "If I take this job, what about Darren's shop?" The woman looked confused. "He's not part of this offer. You've outgrown this place." Valea turned back and looked at the walls, the tools she fixed, the bench where she almost lost her child, the locker with her name. "No," she said finally, "I haven't outgrown anything. I've grown because of this place." The woman was stunned. "Are you rejecting us?" "I'm asking you to give him a contract too. He believed in me when no one else did." There was silence. "I can't promise that," the woman replied. "Then I can't promise I'll leave," Valea said gently. The shuttle flew away without her. That night, Darren found her sitting outside, watching the stars with her child. "You could have left," he said. "I did leave," she answered. "I left a world that didn't want me, and I found one that did." He sat beside her. "I'm just a mechanic." "You're more than that," she whispered. "You're the first human who didn't see me as alien, just as a mother trying to survive." From that night on, Valea wasn't a guest in the shop. She was family. And just beyond the stars, unknown to both of them, someone else was watching, something ancient and powerful and grateful. The colony woke to alarms. A giant shadow moved across the sky, a ship, enormous and ancient, its hull glowing with strange golden symbols. It wasn't human, it wasn't registered, it was Valea's people. The same race that had once ruled the EU stars. The same race that was believed to be broken and scattered after the war. And now, one of their last surviving vessels hovered above the colony like a silent god. Panic broke out. Colonists ran for cover. Soldiers armed their weapons. But inside the mechanic shop, Valea stood still, holding her child in her arms. She recognized the markings on that ship. It was a royal vessel. Her husband's family ship. A ship that should have been destroyed, but wasn't. Darren rushed to her side. "Do you know them?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. They've come for us." Suddenly, a message flashed across the colony screens in the alien language of Karun. But Darren's systems translated it. "We seek the widow of Commander Thural, and the child of his blood." Gasps spread through the streets. Valea was royal, her child, an heir. She walked calmly to the open road. Soldiers tried to stop her, but she raised her hand. "I'm not a threat," she said, "but I need to go." Darren followed, but she turned to him. "Stay here. You're not walking into that alone." Valea smiled. "I'm not afraid anymore." As she approached, a soft light beamed down. A figure floated from the ship, an elder from her clan covered in ceremonial robes. He stared at her. "And at the child you survived," he said. "We searched the ruins, we believed you gone." "No," Valea replied. "You left us, like everyone else did." The elder lowered his head in shame. "But you are the blood of the High Line," he said. "Your child is heir. You must return." Valea turned and looked at the shop in the distance. At Darren standing there, arms crossed, face calm. "I already found home," she said. "But the child will be raised in peace, with freedom, with people who fight not because of blood but because of love." The elder paused. "Then we owe you something." She thought for a moment. "Give him this colony," she said. The elder blinked. "What?" "Protect it. Fund it. Fix its laws. Let humans and aliens work side by side. Make this a place where no mother ever has to beg again." After a long silence, the elder bowed. "Done." Then he looked at Darren. "Human, she says you were the only one who helped her. For that, the stars are now watching you." The ship vanished into the sky, leaving no mark. And the next day, the Colony Council announced something strange. The laws had changed. Aliens could now work, live, and raise families under full protection. A new program was created, the Unity Initiative, funded by unknown sponsors. Back at the mechanic shop, Valea unpacked new tools. Her name was now listed next to Darren's on the ownership wall. Her child giggled while playing with old engine parts, trying to fix them like his mother. Darren leaned on the doorway and said, "You really shook the galaxy, you know that?" Valea smiled softly. "No, you did." He blinked. "Me? You were the only one," she said. "The only one who saw me. Not a threat, not a worker, not even a queen, just a mother, with nowhere left to go." Darren looked at her, then at the shop, the crew, and the bright sky above. "Well," he said, "you're not alone anymore.